whenever you are. Do I look good, man? Is the setup good?
Yeah, you look phenomenal.
My image is tiny here, so I can
no,
only see myself.
You look phenomenal. So, all right,
cool,
we're live.
Thank you.
Officially live. Okay.
Right on.
So I want to take a moment to welcome Brad Browning to the show. And now, Brad is one of those people, when I first started out, that, I don't know, we started out around the same time, I think, but your stuff took off way faster and it got really way bigger than my stuff. And specifically when we started doing YouTube videos, I started looking at your YouTube videos. I was like, God dang it, that guy, he's always at the top. So
I feel like an old timer now, man.
Right.
A grizzled veteran. Yeah, it's funny how it's kind of just accidentally took off a few years back.
Yeah,
but you know what that's like, I'm sure. You're in the same boat now, so
got a ways to go with the YouTube channel, but your stuff, I've been watching, and I've even had a few people who've visited my website and said, "Hey, have you read Brad Browning stuff?" And so I got turned on to you for a long time and kind of admired you from afar. And we're kind of both in the same boat because we're focusing on breakups. We're focusing on, I think even you're like a coach, right? Like,
I do lots of coaching. As a matter of fact, probably most of my time, or half of it anyway, is spent doing coaching stuff. Yeah. YouTube's great, but it makes you a reluctant celebrity, right?
Yeah, right. Well, anyways, you actually somehow you found me, and I don't even have a contact page, which is something I need to do, but somehow you found me and reached out to me, and I was like...
I have my ways, Chris. I have my ways, man.
Well, I remember I got the email, I was blown away. I almost fell out of my seat. I even ran up to my wife, who's upstairs, and I go, "You're not going to believe who just emailed me." And she was like, "Who?" "Brad Browning." And we were both like freaking out for a second. And there was a brief moment where I have to admit I thought it was just some Indian guy like sitting behind a computer doing fake.
Yes, I know this. Well, I was worried that you weren't going to see my email. I was going to get lost because I don't know if your inbox is like mine. It's a very busy place.
Oh my god!
And, you have
to right.
Yeah. Hence the reason I put "Hi, I'm Brad Browning" in the subject line.
Yeah, right.
I'm glad it worked out, and thanks for inviting me on here, by the way.
It's a blast. So we're going to talk about the no contact rule today, which is something you're a gigantic proponent of, and I know everyone has.
it's the right way to. It's the right way to go about.
It's the only way. Let's get just kidding. No, but I think. Go for it.
I feel passionately enough that I was willing to make an actual separate YouTube video just addressing some of the other experts. Some of the things I'm talking about, who claim that no contact doesn't work. It's a terrible idea. I'm sure that's a very nice marketing angle that gets them lots of attention, and that kind of controversy, drives traffic to their site and everything. But no contact, in my experience, and yours too, I would imagine, is generally, even if it's a modified version of the right method and the most effective method.
Yeah, it's interesting. One thing I've noticed by talking to people, or I guess researching more than anything, is everyone kind of has a different take on the no contact rule. And I'm really eager to hear your take, because I certainly have my take, and I'm kind of wanted to compare the two and see how similar they were.
Well, my feeling is that the most important thing is basically having a period of time after the breakup where you don't talk to your ex, and that achieves a couple things. One, it gives you time to sort of get over the worst of the emotions. Two, by ignoring your ex, you're basically going cold turkey and taking yourself completely out of their life suddenly instead of sort of slowly over time fading away, which is a lot easier to handle from your ex's perspective than compared to just sort of magically disappearing. And of course, also, most of the time or much of the time, there was neediness, clinginess, obsessive behaviors that led to the breakup or that happened after the breakup before no contact. So having sort of a period where you're not pestering your ex, you're showing them that you're independent and you're capable of not being that needy, clingy ex is really important to sort of setting the stage to rebuilding a real relationship after that. So, fundamentally, I think probably based on what I've read of your stuff, you probably agree with that. Fundamentally, whether we agree on the time.
It's almost like word for word. It's like I'm watching myself, except a much better looking version of myself talk.
Why, thank you. You're so kind. It's funny. YouTube comments, they can be very flattering at times, or the opposite.
Super mean. Yeah, that's certainly true.
I think the 30-day no contact thing, 30 days is sort of like an average that works probably for the majority of people.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it's right for everybody. Sometimes I'll recommend 3 months or a week,
Yeah.
depending on the situation. But 30 is sort of like, if you use 30, you're probably not going to go too much or too short.
Yeah.
So that's where I got, that number. And
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started out, I remember I would recommend like, okay, 30-day no contact rule. And I was like dead set on it. Never break it. And then I remember as I kind of started getting more people come to the website and more people interacting, and I'd hear back after they would do the 30-day no contact rule, I kind of adopted your method, what you just said. I kind of have like 3 different versions of it, 3 different time lengths. I think I do the 21-day, the 30-day, and the 45-day. I never go past 45 days. But the other thing, I actually had a look at your book, the X Factor Guide, right? So,
well, thank you for your order, Chris. Thank you.
Right. I can't even remember the. I can't. It just shows you how bad of an interviewer. I can't even remember the book. No, but I was looking at like the I guess the pitch or the sales page to it, and you had like some actual people coming on that recorded testimonials for you. So I wanted to get your take. What are some of the best testimonials you've ever had with people using your product?
Well, what's interesting is, I get a lot. I'm pleased to say that I do get a lot of testimonials. Sometimes it's more that the client was able to overcome the dark times that they were in and find happiness again. Sometimes it's not getting their ex back. Sometimes it takes sort of some outside perspective to force people to sort of realize that this is not the direction they should be going in, or to realize that maybe it'll work out, but now is not the time to pursue my ex, those kinds of things. And so I find that I get a lot of testimonials that are just sort of like, well, I needed somebody who was not involved in the situation to tell me, here's how it is. And I needed somebody to help keep me on the right track and those kinds of things. Some of them, the most flattering ones are probably just people who are genuinely very happy with their life now, and they thank me for helping them, create that new happy life. I don't know if I was really part of that. Generally it's the client's work that, really makes the difference.
Right.
But it is nice to see that, your work is going to help people get out of their very dark times. Because, after a breakup, it's sort of it's a low point in most people's life.
Yeah.
So it's nice to be able to help people out of that and see what happens when they follow up with a testimonial. The ones on my website, those are the people who are willing to go in front of a camera.
Right.
I've got a big folder full of people who sort of I didn't ask, where they didn't want to be, have to be publicly.
Yeah, I've had those
there,
too,
which is understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know about you, man. What do you get? You obviously get the same kind of thing. Do you see the same stuff?
Yeah, of course, man. It's funny. We actually had a woman who, she was on her honeymoon. She had like gotten her ex back, so she brought the product. She got her ex back. She was literally on her honeymoon, and she let him in on the fact that she had bought this product. Because I don't know if you experienced the same thing, but oftentimes like the women who buy the products I sell and everything, they're terrified to let their ex know that they're like trying to get them back. So they do anything to like prevent that from happening. But she was on the honeymoon. She was like, "Hey, I'm happy to do a testimonial for you." So I was like, "Okay, can you do a video one?" And so she agreed. So she's in the process of making me a video one. I think I'm actually going to have her on the show too. So that was probably one of the best ones I ever had. But
marriage so soon after, that's a good success story, man. That's a good case study for you.
And it's perfect segue, because I noticed you have a marriage product and a marriage. You're kind of like an expert in marriage too.
Well, to be honest with you, if you actually sort of read the two programs, there's a lot of similarities. They're not the same. There's a lot of differences, but there's also a lot of similar fundamentals. And it's something that I've actually been interested in probably for longer than the breakup stuff.
Yeah. I noticed you are married too, so.
I am indeed. Yes. You are as well. Yes.
Yeah.
Happily married, in fact. But I have been through tough times, and I know that the marriage situation is different, but it's sort of the same emotions, the same panic and anxiety that the people feel in that situation. And, my products basically just give them a guide with which to follow, knowing that they're going to be doing the best possible things and giving themselves the best possible chance to save their marriage or to get their ex back or whatever. And often they're sort of there's gray area in between those two topics. But yes, I'd like to think of myself as a breakup and divorce reversal or prevention specialist kind of thing.
Well, yeah, definitely. And I think I know I've definitely modeled your success after mine a little bit, because I would always kind of look and see, okay, well, what is Brad Browning doing? And then I'd kind of be like, oh crap, he's got a YouTube channel now, so I need to get the YouTube channel up. So it's really
well. Here I am sitting there on your website saying, "Who's this Chris guy? I got to get on his podcast, man." I gotta...
Stole them, yes.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's nice that you also put your face out there, because I know a lot of other experts, they won't.
Right.
So you don't really know if it's a real person or whatever. So here we are in the flesh, folks.
Yeah,
we're
right.
We're real.
And just to let you know, we are like committed. I've got a hurricane barreling down on us in Florida, yes. And Brad is in the midst of a snowstorm, even though I just lied about that, but don't let that.
Right. Because I live in Canada, it's always snowing, right? Yeah, okay. Right. I don't think it's snowed here in 2 years, so there you go.
Really?
But yes, if you blow away at any moment, I'll know why.
That's why. Yeah,
bearing down on you. But you're so devoted for doing
this. That's it.
So,
faces good. Out there and everything. But how many experts have you encountered that are afraid to put their faces out there? Because I know I talk a lot to women about, especially if they're having problems, trusting certain sources from experts. And half the experts don't put their faces out there, and they're kind of peddling.
Well, why, right? That's my question. Why? What are you afraid of? I mean, I guess if it's for privacy, I understand. But otherwise, putting a real face behind a product or what you're saying just sort of makes it more honest and genuine. And
personal, too.
I am honest and genuine, so here I am. You know what I mean? So I feel like some of them, maybe they're just doing it because they don't like being on camera. They're camera shy or whatever. And others probably just aren't real people or whatever. I mean, you know this business. There's lots of scum out there. You'll get the spam emails and my least favorite thing in the world. That is.
Yep, I know. I get it every single day.
But I just, I
every
just want to phone
day.
that number and just say, give them a piece of my mind. But I won't do that.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, if you're watching this and you've considered spell casting to get your ex back, stop.
Yeah,
just
right.
Stop.
Don't do it.
No, don't do it. Does not work. Does not work. And there's a reason why that they don't have a website, just a phone number that randomly changes, So yes, I think people who put their face behind it, who actually come on camera and say, hey, this is me, this is what I believe in, this is my product. You're just more likely to trust them. You're more likely to understand that what they're saying is real and you're real. So I don't think I'd buy something from somebody who wasn't willing to, who was wearing a mask and would only do business doing a mask. So fair enough.
Yeah, definitely. No, go for it.
There's a lot of information about getting your ex back on the internet, and I would argue that a lot of it is good information. But then there's some that are just out there to use desperate people to make a buck.
Yeah.
And even though you and I are in this business and we make a living off of it, that's not really, at least for me, is not the motivation. And if money was the only motivation, I probably would be doing something else. We would be lawyers or
high-powered lawyers, Chris and Brad.
Right, exactly. Not standing in front of a camera, and things like that. But you get to help people, and I don't know. For me, it's a genuine passion. So
yeah.
So were you into psychology and stuff? Because that's kind of how I sort of made my way over to this field, and I've always been interested in it. So is that your sort of?
Yeah, I love psychology. I'm always reading. I have this document I put together. It is essentially every single study I've ever cited for ex-boyfriend recovery. It has all sorts of stuff in there, and some of the stuff I've never even used before. So it's just like sitting there as kind of this holy grail of science.
I actually remember you saying an email from you that had a survey in it about getting your ex back. That was fascinating.
Oh, so yeah.
It's like just a poll that was done.
Yeah, the Associated Press, or like 2015 of November, I think, and
it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. What I took away from it is more people actually get back with their exes than you'd think, but you have to read between the lines a little bit, because it said it threw some number out there like 42% or something like that. But that is saying in their whole life they've admitted getting back with their ex, not particularly an ex.
Right.
But it's sort of my number, my go-to. I throw it out there to show people that it's possible to get an ex back.
Absolutely. And I get a lot of comments on YouTube from people who I don't know why they're watching my videos, but they say stuff like, your ex is your ex for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is sort of a prevailing attitude among a lot of people. But I don't think it's accurate at all, because I think probably 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 breakups happen not for good reasons. They happen because someone got complacent or screwed up, made a mistake, got clicked, whatever. And they actually are still compatible people who could rebuild the spark and a connection. But for some reason, it's fallen apart. And that's not, to me, justification to not try to work things out, because maybe this is the best person for you, your ex, I mean, and in that case, why not get back together? Because who knows when you'll find that kind of relationship or build that kind of bond with somebody else.
Right.
So that's sort of my take on it. So that doesn't surprise me to hear that 40% of people get back together, because I know that a lot of breakups don't happen for any good reason or any real meaningful reason that should prevent them from getting back together.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's kind of the number one thing I think a lot of women and men going through breakups kind of face. There's no really support group for them to lean on. There's this stereotypical attitude about, well, why would you want to get them back? Yeah.
So, there's plenty of fish in the sea.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel like I've made that point so many times in articles trying to explain there's really not a lot of support out there for you. So that's why I'm glad that I've met you, because it's sort of like, I feel like I've been kind of the support crutch for a lot of people, but now I'm introducing them to you, which you are another support crutch. And I think you even have, with your X Factor, you have like a forum type thing going on?
I have a coaching program where I work with clients one-on-one through email. I used to do Skype and phone, but it's just very time consuming, and this way I get to help a lot more people. I have a member zone when you buy my product, and basically you get a bunch of different stuff. I mean, exactly. It's like a support network. And the reality is, even if they have a support network, a lot of people, their support network will be their friends and family, who are well-intentioned but don't know anything about what they're talking about, and may have their own biases. Like maybe your mom didn't like your ex, so she's obviously not going to say, yeah, you should get back together with them, even though that might be the right or a logical course of action based on your situation. So it is nice to act as that support group. And I also think there's a benefit to it coming from somebody on the outside who doesn't know you or your situation, who can give you sort of, being honest doesn't, why not, right? When I'm working with clients, I tell them straight up. Sometimes it's tough to hear some of the things, that you, from an outside perspective, that I'm seeing when I tell people. They sort of don't want to hear it, but mom's not going to say that to you, right? She's not going to say, this person's right from you, you're clingy, whatever it is.
Right.
It helps to be an outside person looking in and get past those biases or the friends and family advice, which I'm sure you've dealt with in many clients in the past.
Yeah, I've actually had some crazy stories where I've had it from both ends of the spectrum, really, where you have the friends and family who are not supportive, and then you'll have every once in a while a mom. I don't think I've ever had a dad before, but I'm probably sure in the history of there's been a dad or something, but the mom actually goes out and comes to the website and contacts me to help her daughter. I don't know if you've ever had that one before, but
absolutely. Yep, I have. And generally I'm fine with it, but it's interesting to see that. I hope I'm that kind of parent, and because I think that's the right method. Because the reality is, breakups are like anything else. If you don't know what you're talking about, you probably shouldn't be giving advice.
Right.
And maybe it's even worse than many cases, because when it comes to breakups, oftentimes what you should be doing is the exact opposite of what is logical when you sort of think about it, without knowing sort of any of the ins and outs of breakups and getting your ex back. So you might think, oh, well, I should just tell them that I love them and I want them back, and that'll make them fall back in love with me and want to take me back. It's logical, but it's completely backwards, right?
Yeah, it doesn't if somebody's
work out. Exactly. It's not going to help you get your ex back. So it's nice to be the influencing voice that can sort of steer them on the right track and say, well, yeah, I know that's logical, but it's also not going to work, and it's going to make matters worse.
I'm really interested in your coaching and how that works. Like, what is your process? So you said you do email coaching. So if someone signs up with you, what is your process? Do you give them a game plan, or?
It's really very custom tailored to the client. Mm-hmm. So basically I just have a set number of slots. What I've found is that it helps if you're there for somebody over the course of, say, a month or 2 or 3, instead of just one-off phone calls for half an hour, because then you can sort of help guide. I can guide my clients along as the situation unfolds. So I've already answered a couple coaching emails today. I had one guy, his ex, was sending him a bunch of messages, and she was angry out of the blue or something, and he basically just said, "Help! How do I respond to these?" Mm-hmm. And so I was able to sort of steer the course in a different direction based on what was happening, and I do it all through email. So basically, when somebody signs up, They fill out a big form with their information, details of their situation, and then I just respond to that. It comes to me as an email, and I respond to that email directly, and we just correspond by email as needed. So, when a client gets their ex back or decides they no longer need my help, they cancel. Mm-hmm. And otherwise, I just keep working with them until they achieve their goals.
Now, how often do they contact you about this? Like, let's say they, to take your example, the guy whose ex got angry all of a sudden. Were you corresponding multiple times with him, or
this was probably like 6th or 7th exchange back and forth. Sometimes people will go quiet for a while, clients, so they just won't need my help. But then all of a sudden their no contact period ends, or their ex does something, and then all of a sudden they need my help every day for 2 weeks or whatever. And so it's sort of an on-off thing as needed. I basically have guaranteed response time. So, if you email me, you're going to get a reply within this amount of time. That helps me also just sort of plan my scheduling and time. So
pretty hectic.
I mean, you know how it is. Well, yeah. And I want to keep helping people for free and doing the YouTube and the social media stuff and everything and answering the emails. It's tough, as you know.
Right.
So I have to prioritize the coaching clients, which is nice though, because then you get to sort of work with that group of people until they reach their success point or decide they no longer want help. And it's really rewarding, I find, because you get to see people from where they started, and I have a whole email exchange, sort of the history of
you can go back and refer to something, right? That always helps.
And I can see the changes in them just through the emails oftentimes. A couple weeks later, all of a sudden things have turned upside down and they're feeling way better, and their ex is, a lot more receptive and all these things. So that's really nice to see. And I think that the ongoing nature is really important, unless you could afford, to do a Skype call twice a week or anytime you need it, which is not feasible for most people. So this way you get the same ongoing help, but at a much lower cost.
Now, the people who you're working with personally, what are some of the problem areas that have? Or just, I'm really interested in the big picture perspective here. Like, looking at everyone you've worked with, what are some of the areas where they really, really struggle?
Well, let me know if these are some of the same things that you see.
I see a lot. I bet it's the same, but
it probably is. Yeah, one is people who have to see their ex during the no contact period. They have kids together, they work at the same job,
I find
whatever.
So many people fail. Probably like 80% of the people I've ever helped fail. Like they'll break it.
Yeah, and that is sort of to be expected. And so I don't really treat it as like you're disappearing completely. There are times when you need to respond.
Right. The kids.
Like if your ex says, I've got to go tomorrow to work and my suit is at your house. I need to come pick it up today, please.
Right.
Well, you can't just ignore them, right? Because that's just going to make things worse and piss them off. Mm-hmm. And there are times like the kids one is tough. I don't get a lot of that. More of those are the marriage client situations a lot of the time.
The one I get is, working together and living together. That is
living together.
That's a difficult one. Yeah.
So what I basically preach in that situation is sort of like modified no contact, where it's sort of mandatory contact only with certain conditions, so that the interactions you have with your ex are positive or at least not hurtful to your progress towards getting them back. So for example, if you live with your ex, maybe you could try to be busy as often as possible and find lots of social stuff to do in the evenings, so you're not home together a lot. But when you are, you say hi, hope everything's going well, you be friendly and act like you're fine, right? Mm-hmm. And that way you sort of get the same fundamental benefits out of the no contact. You're just sort of doing it as a limited or, as needed only type no contact. Sometimes you can do that just as effectively, or maybe you have to change the amount of time or whatever. This is something that unfortunately there's no, one recipe that's going to work for everybody, as you know.
Yeah.
So I sort of listen to my clients, the coaching clients anyway, and then adjust based on that. Kids are one of the toughest ones, I think, because you kind of have to take their welfare into consideration, right? But yeah, that's an interesting one. Another topic, I find I get a lot of long distance relationship
me too.
Customers.
Yeah.
And I just have to be brutally honest. Distance is a problem. It makes things tougher.
Very
right?
difficult. It's difficult. Yeah. I remember there was a girl I was working with when I first started the website. Must have been trying to get her ex back for 7-8 months. Her name was like Taryn, I believe. And finally I don't know if she ever got him back, but she got back to where she got him to travel across the country to see him.
Right.
But you're right, man. It's a difficult situation to be in.
Well, especially when there's like, thousands of miles separating you, not just like a drive, right? I mean, if you're close enough that you can easily be in your ex's area for a good reason, it's much less of a concern than if you're in Thailand and your ex is in, Germany. That's a real,
that's
a distance. It's probably not. And a lot of the time I ask these clients, so when you were together, what was the long-term plan for your relationship? Because like you can't really be in a long-distance relationship forever. There has to be some future where you're together or a plan. And a lot of people don't have that. And so if they're going to get back together, it's just going to be the same problems. You're still 7,000 miles apart. So getting back together, even if you can, make that happen, which is often harder, it's still going to have all the same problems and you end up right back where you were. There are some situations where I find it can help. It can be easy, or at least just as easy in a long distance scenario, but certain conditions obviously have to be met and the scenarios differ. But generally, I think it makes things tougher, right?
So no contact, long distance, and I guess I'll throw one area where I know women really struggle is the first contact with their ex after the no contact rule is up.
Yes.
That's one area where I see a lot of women like having issues. So I'm interested to hear your take on it.
Well, I guess, first of all, there's a segment of people who are going to get contacted by their ex during no contact.
Correct.
Without doing anything. So the first contact is going to be made by their ex, and that's great, right? That happens often.
Right.
But for those who need to reach out to their ex at the end, the first message is tough. I generally try to encourage people to think of something that's just going to make their ex smile or laugh or whatever. And that's the only goal of that interaction, right? It's just to sort of like, hey, I'm here. I'm still awesome. And then you disappear again for another few days or whatever. And then you sort of build from there. And because you don't want to rush it, but at the same time, and you don't want to cause any drama or, do anything to rock the boat.
Right.
So I like to use text in that scenario. I know you're a big fan of texting as well. At least if it's was a part of your relationship in a way you communicated regularly, or Facebook message or Snapchat or whatever. There's no obligation to respond on your ex's behalf. It's not threatening in the way that a phone call or showing up at their door would. So that's my preferred method of contact, and I like to start slow and fun, and then just sort of build from there.
Yeah.
What about you? Is that what you sort of preach as well?
Yeah, I'm kind of big on this idea of a value chain. So you wouldn't ask someone who you're sitting in front of to marry you on the first date. You have to build up to it, which is kind of your point, how to start off fun and then kind of build up from there. Same exact principle. So I like to think of, okay, the no contact rule, and then you're going to kind of ease them back in with texting, and then from texting you can talk on the phone, and from the phone calls you can transition to the dating. And then pretty much when you get them on a date, you're close to getting them back if you've done it, I guess, the correct way. But as far as what to say in the text, I'm a big fan of having the text be interesting and then ending the conversation pretty quickly after that, which I know you're a pretty big proponent of as well at the beginning. So
well, it's basically just you have to be in control of all the interactions,
right?
You don't want to let your ex dictate when, how, where, why. That needs to be all your decision, because, well, to be honest, it's mind games, right? I mean, I don't like to play the mind games thing, but it's basically at the time of breakup, your ex had all the power. You wanted to be back together. They didn't want that, so they have the power. Yeah. So over the course of no contact, you're sort of shifting that, and you need to sort of continue to go down that road where you are a valuable asset that they need to chase after, or they need to wake up and realize that they shouldn't let you walk out of their life, right? Because you're awesome. And so that's sort of what I like to think of as the goal of the first few interactions, just sort of reminding your ex of that. And basically like seduction 2.0, right? Like sort of beginning from the start again. And you already know that this person, your ex,
kind of into you,
can fall in love to you, does like you as a person, all those things. That's all proven. So you just got to sort of go through the steps again and rebuild just like you did the first time. And there's no other way to do it, right? I mean, you cannot get back together unless your ex is attracted to you, wants to be with you, feels the connection again. So that's got to be the goal, is to build that and then have your ex be the one to say, hey, I made a mistake in breaking up. Let's get back together. And then, of course, I'm also a big proponent of building a better relationship this time around.
Yeah, creating
there's no point
in
getting back together. Exactly. If you're just going to break up again every 6 months, and have go through the whole heartache thing again, well, why get back together, right? So it has to be setting the stage for a proper or better relationship next time around.
Man, I love it. I love it. So where can people find you, Brad?
People can find me by typing my name into Google or going to my website, bradbrowning.com, or even just the X Factor Guide. I got that free video presentation you mentioned is on my website. Got one for men, one for women. It's xfactorguide.com. X as in EX, not the TV show. I came first. I didn't beat the Lauryn Hill song, though. I did learn that there's a Lauryn Hill song from like 1997. It's called The X Factor. But if you Google Brad Browning, you'll find me.
Yeah, he's a popular guy. And also you can find him on YouTube as well. I mean, his YouTube channel pretty much blows mine out of the water. He's got like, I think 87,000 subscribers is the last time I looked. So he does a pretty phenomenal video. So I'll recommend the YouTube channel as well.
It's flattering to have all those views and fans, and shocking to think that people will watch me for that many hours. But YouTube is you can definitely find me on YouTube. Just search Brad Browning and you will see my beautiful face in the search results. Absolutely.
All right, Brad. Take care, man.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate the invite coming on, and nice chatting. Talk to you again soon, buddy.
Bye.
Thanks.